Heyo, and welcome to episode 29 of BGCP Disassembled, the official podcast of BigClassicCommentPage.com. And today I am Austin, you've got Dan, and I am joined by Jerd.
Hello.
How's it going,
I'm
Jerd?
going to be looking at the camera, yeah. Hey.
And as per popular request, Chrissy Jameson.
Oh, hello.
Oh.
Yeah, beautiful bastard.
By popular request, I'm talking about my dad.
Who's that?
Where's Chris? Is he coming on? Aye, he's coming on, Dad. that was a popular request.
How's that?
I'm still hurt.
Okay. Yes, today we have a podcast to do for you guys, but we don't have that much content to go through because there's been not much happening in terms of news this week. Last week was a big week, but this week it's been kind of slow. But we're still going to get to the news and beat the dead horse and skate the barrel. But before we get there, I mean, look at me selling the show already. Before we get there, we're going to do our discussion topic for this week, which I do believe is quite a juicy one, and it is the best and worst examples of CGI facial effects in movies. Originally, we were going to say CGI de-aging effects, and then we were like, well, what about the ones that are aging up, and what about the ones that are like recreating dead folks and all the rest of it? So we're kind of opening a wee bit wider. It's just the worst kind of facial CGI bullshit you've ever seen in a movie where you've watched it and went, well, that doesn't look real. That looks like a plastic figure. So, yeah, let's get into it. Who would like to go first? Why don't you hit me with just a really bad example first?
Right, I was going to go... Oh, right, this is controversial, right? But it is bad, but I think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Robert Downey Jr. one and Civil War. Give us your thoughts. Is it smooth too much? What's going on? I'm looking at it right now.
Right, I think a big part of this. Do you know what? I'm going to write these down as we go because I want to edit in a GIF at least of each one as we go, so that folks at home can kind of look at what we're talking about. Because that's the thing. I think a lot of them, right, are genuinely like it depends on whether you're looking at a still image or whether you're looking at a moving image. I think sometimes, like I'm looking at a still right now, right, a Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War, and he looks okay. But when you put it into live action, like movement, it just looks, I don't know, I think it just looks strange.
Yeah.
What
Slimy.
do you think?
Is what I kind of think of them. They're just like
slimy.
Just, I don't know. It's like I guess that's where
right. Specifically with the Robert Downey Jr. one, I think it looks like kind of like he's just been born. Like
yeah,
he's still got that like residue on him. It's a bit shiny. His hair's kind of weirdly flat, and his face just isn't moving quite right. It just
it's just
this is what it kind of looks like. And I don't know if this is just because I've done animation and I kind of know how facial animation works. But then again, no, because there's some really good examples here that you don't notice this. But it looks like somebody's a bit of string. Like see when he smiles, there's a bit of string on the other side, and they're like filling it up and pushing it down. And that is exactly how facial animation works. It is wee arrows that you move. But in this, I feel like it's really kind of, I don't know, noticeable and false. And I don't really get it because deepfake technology doesn't really use that. Deepfake technology is AI, which is based on the movement that's already in the source clip. So surely if they just get him to do that scene and then put the young face over it, it shouldn't look pushed and pulled. I don't know why that happened, but it just looks odd.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they don't trust deepfake because it's cheaper or it's like it's too much of a like you just put it in. I don't think it's as much of a process.
We're going to get to the Mandalorian, which is a big example of how deepfake is better than, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
No, but I think one thing I'm like noticing watching back the clip for this, I was that the one thing they fuck up really is the hair.
Yeah.
The face works okay, but see the hair it moves. It's like, oh god, that looks like he's just put far too much wax in it, or he's
like obviously I think in the scene is he just meant to woke up out of bed or he's just out. So his hair is meant to be kind of like messy, but it
looks flat.
It looks like he's going bald, and Robert Downey Jr.'s never had a receding hairline. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, why did you do that? When he's younger, surely he should have more hair if anything. Like, I don't know, it's just odd.
Maybe the editor didn't like RTJ.
What I also think, right, is an issue with these scenes, I think sometimes when you're shooting that character on its own with nobody else in the scene, that's one thing. But see when you have them standing next to a real person,
yeah,
and you can kind of go, well, that's clearly not the same. One of those is not like the other. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very clearly obvious that especially when they're doing obviously the actors are expressing with their faces. So when they're doing all these kind of the real actors are doing all these kind of subtle facial movements, and then this guy's in the corner like, yeah, it's kind of like this is awful. This is kind of dodgy. So I
think from rewatching it a couple of I think maybe like the second time I rewatched it or something, I was like, oh yeah, it's all right. But then when you actually see real Robert Downey Jr. beside it, I think they got the form of it pretty fucking spot on. But like, I think it's easy to, and even looking at that still there, it's very easy. Like when you just see it there without real Robert Downey Jr., it is kind of he's a weathered man. He's still a very handsome man, but the shape of his face has changed quite a lot, and he's got more character, should we say? I generally have more character in my face than he does now, but the form of it is good. But yeah, I think it's just when it's in, it'll probably come up a lot. When it's in movement is when you're like,
totally. Okay, that was your example that was your good example, Chris, right?
That's my good one.
We just ripped it apart. Jerd, what have you got, man?
What have I got? I've got one that's like, so I was looking at a few lists of it last night. One that is cited as being one of the worst ones, but like when I was watching it last night, just particularly Patrick Stewart in The Last Stand.
Oh no! What you did?
No, because Helen looks weird, but Patrick Stewart, is there a picture of it? Because they did it in Wolverine Origins. It's not on this fucking article. Sorry, I'm very free with my cursing in this. I'm assuming that's good.
Go nuts. Listen, this is specifically you're talking about him in The Last Stand as the good example.
Maybe surprisingly good example because it's always often cited as being one of the worst. But I was watching it last night. I was like, it's not bad. Like it's like I guess we've an idea. We've more so than a lot of actors. Well, Patrick Stewart, we've all seen him in Next Generation. That's probably the age they were putting him at. In that, but I was just watching it last night. And I was like, it's not. I think X-Men Origins doesn't look great.
Yeah, do you know something? I was going to say, like, right, this isn't great, the Patrick Stewart one in Last Stand, but it's miles ahead of the X-Men Origins Patrick Stewart. That is horrific, that image. That is really quite creepy, I think. Because like, he does look like a kind of newborn baby, which is really disturbing.
I'll just throw that in the chat there just so you can see. Like, unless what I'm looking at here is the image without the effects on, but like that looks grand. See it? No, I guess we have to see what he looked like exactly around the time of Last Stand.
I think that's different, Jerd, for what it actually was. I think this is the real one here, which this will be flash up.
Oh yeah,
that looks
okay. Even like
right, but I will argue, even that, right, which isn't great, it's still better than X-Men Origins version.
Yeah, X-Men Origins is weird, like, but I don't think that's that bad.
It's also better than the Ian McKellen Magneto de-aging.
Yeah,
that looks weird.
That looks
really bad.
That's bizarre.
Especially when you see the two beside it. Like, look at him. Like, Patrick Stewart there. I really don't think that's that bad. Like,
no, it's not. It's not compared to this. It's great. Like, what is that?
That's alien, man.
It's like a G.I. Joe figure or something. It's so odd.
Yeah, I like which Last Stand. That's after that came after Last Stand. So I think even.
But so did the claws, and they also look shit in Origins. So.
Yeah, again. You've based most of your films on Wolverine. Oh, sorry, we were talking about this before we started recording. If there's something popular, make sure you do the next one right. Don't be fucking about like. I don't see how they let things like that happen.
Right.
Sorry, you go. I was just going to say, it's possibly just because different crews, man. But like that's one thing I've always see animation studios. I've noticed that they keep the same people on. Like I think, see from the Spider-Man, I know people think it was. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the Spider-Man multiverse cartoon thing. Like they were
into the multiverse.
Miller and Lord.
Not Into the Multiverse. That one.
Yeah. Directed by Miller and Lord. Yeah.
Directed by him. So they're keeping the same studio because I think sometimes they take other animators or other people.
Yeah.
So it's something to do with that, which is Thank God, because if they're going to make a brilliant animated movie, keep them. But I can totally see, you can see there's different. Maybe the guys do it cheaper, and then you
Although,
fucking see it. Like
in terms of the Spider-Verse, if you can't get the team that did it in that first movie, go to Insomniac, because in the Miles Morales game, that's a downloadable skin, and it's got the same animation.
Oh yeah,
about, it's got the
electricity and stuff.
Yeah. You play as Miles, but I'm saying like it's got that skin. But not only do you look like Spider-Verse, it moves like Spider-Verse as well.
the frame rate.
Yeah,
Copies of frame rate.
it's really clever.
Wow.
And it's not. I don't know how they
So
managed
smart,
it in Spider-Man PS4 engine, but they did. So yeah, there you go. If you can't get that team, they did it just as good. So
Yeah. Well, you'd have to be able to get a PS5. Which
yeah. Well, that's true. That's the hardest part.
I finally have a job again, and I'm like, oh, I can maybe. Well, no, I can't buy one.
You still can't. No.
Yeah, it's still there. No,
I was saying to my friend who's out of the computers at all. He's like, "How is that possible?" Like, I guess it's. I said it to my nephew. Is like COVID maybe slowing stuff down.
COVID did slow stuff down. This is a sidetrack, but yeah, there was chips that were coming from Japan and places, and get them across. And it is an knock-on effect to that, but it is also, I think, I don't know. It's as if they didn't like expect the demand, but now that they've also known about the demand for a long time, it's like they still haven't really done anything about it.
Yeah,
that's the weird part. It's like there's money lying on the table here. There's people that literally throw hundreds of millions of dollars at you to buy one of these, and you're not making them. It's just weird that they're leaving all that. Well, I don't know. They did say recently that we're making more chips and by Christmas, so it'll be easier, and you'll be able to just go to Amazon and buy one and blah blah blah. But whether that will actually happen, I guess. We'll see.
Hopefully now for Christmas.
Anyway, yes. Anything else to say about the X-Men ones? Just they're ropey, like, because I think that's what's kind of covered The Last Stand and Origins.
Did they do it elsewhere? Oh, right. Well,
I'm going to lead on to a good example. And you guys can keep me right here, because I'm not 100% how much of this was CGI and how much of it was actually just prosthetics. But see in Logan, when he has the clone. The clone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they just aged up Hugh Jackman to play Logan and aged him down to play the clone. That's so very clever. But if there's CGI de-aging going on there, then it's pretty, great. It's pretty perfect.
Wasn't there like CGI, not de-aging, but like reshoots in that? I'm pretty sure there's I've seen footage of scenes in the car where it isn't Hugh Jackman, it's a stand-in, and they just fucking we have to make this Hugh Jackman.
You're absolutely right. I've seen that too. Yeah, that's right. That's
Corridor Crew guys, is it? They do videos on it.
Yeah, I think so, and it's like the de-aging. That's the deepfake technology they use, right? That they used.
I'm not fully sure on that, maybe, anyway. But I'm pretty sure I've seen images of it's not even Hugh Jackman, it's just they've a stand-in. So they probably would have used that stand-in for X-24.
Yes.
Too.
Yes. That's probably exactly what it did. So then, yes, it is. I guess it is facial CGI, that counts. Therefore, I'd say that's one of the best examples I've seen. Especially for a film that's now a few years old, it still looks great.
And if it's in short scenes, and I guess if it's at night, that's from the very small bit of research I did last night. If it's in short scenes and at night, at nighttime seems to help a lot. I think it helps with CGI in general.
But then again, the next day when they fight in the forest and spoilers, Hugh Jackman gets killed, that's all in broad daylight.
Yeah, well, I kind of more meant the X-24 to de-age him. He's not. You don't really see him during the day, do you?
Yeah, the following day when he's trying to get the kids across the border, and he comes back and they fight, and then he.
Yeah, sorry, I thought he was gone by then. I thought they've dealt with him the night before, but he was back. Yeah, I only watched that recently. I should know that.
Yeah, there you go.
I've put a photo in the actual chat. I totally agree. I love Logan, so I don't think I can't say anything bad about it. But you can clearly see, but you're only going to see that for a little second. You know what I mean? You can kind of see that kind of looks.
And he's the facial hair, which maybe he didn't have. That covers up a lot of it, and there he's missing the chunk of his head.
Exactly.
So that's the whole part of the head going to have to work on.
To be fair, the biggest, the most odd looking thing about that photo is the wound on his head. The rest of the actual face is pretty good.
Yeah, but it's funny. When you're seeing things in short clips, you let a lot go. I even find with the like there's only so much you can take in when you're watching something. I even find like what I really like about watching the MCU films, like just being a comics nerd, is like when you go back over it, there's so many little bits of action beats that you might miss on a first watch, like just very slight hand movements or little things that they do in the middle of a fight. So something like that, like CGI, it can be a bit ropey for a second because it's only really the nerds like us who go back and rewatch the films multiple times. They'll be like, "Ah, you fucking didn't do that right."
Yeah.
You know,
Note
your
it
average
down.
person doesn't
One
notice everything.
strike. No, it's but like I think that's something to do with movies that you really enjoy. Like see, like if you really enjoy films like Logan and stuff like that, a little slip like that, I don't. It goes in my mind like okay, I'll let that go. You know, I'm
Yeah,
not going to
Yeah.
mark that down. It's like the movie's fantastic. Fuck it, you know,
You-
I'm enjoying it.
You
aspect.
definitely give them a certain amount of leeway.
Give him a
Definitely.
leeway.
Yeah.
Give him a wee bit of rope. So,
But there's, I think, the biggest thing for like someone I heard like with the Marvel films in particular, they will change the story at the expense of the CGI. So they'll change something like pretty quick. Like, no, we actually want this to happen, and it puts the VFX artists under a lot of pressure. So,
Yeah.
like Black Panther, like that's one of my biggest issues with that film is the two fights that the two physical fight, the challenge for the king fights that are they're not in their suits or anything. They had me gasping with and like it's like oh my god.
Yeah.
But then when at the end it's just this ropey CGI, like that's when it crosses that level where it's like it's not even
Black
enjoyable.
Panther review on the website where I kind of see all this shit, but yeah, I agreed. There's always some grit lost. I mean, it doesn't matter how kind of far back you go. Like that's also for me. Also, the Matrix films are coming out soon, and that's kind of funnily enough. The Matrix is kind of what made me come up with this. I was rewatching the Matrix trailer, and there was that scene where Neo's face changes in the mirror to like the old man, and I thought that doesn't look right. And that's kind of what put me on this topic. I was like, that's kind of different. So, the Matrix, I'd say that's one of the biggest difference between that first movie and the sequels. In the first Matrix, that fight in the subway, even though maybe a fair amount of it is CGI, it feels real. The punches feel like the lands. It feels kind of brutal and gritty. The second one, where he's fighting all the Mr. Smiths, and it's like a PS2 game, it's so rubbery and bouncy, and there's no impact to it. It's so, I don't know, it's not tight enough, it's too wishy-washy, and I don't know, it feels like a video game, which I guess you can kind of say, well, the Matrix is a simulation, so
you can kind of
use that. But then it's like, well, why did the first one feel, as grounded and as kind of rough and like that fight is how we they're throwing each other through walls. It fucking feels like there's a guy throwing a guy through a wall. You're like, whereas the second one, it just starts to feel a bit more detached, a bit more.
And there's even in the first one, like there's bits where I think I can't remember, is it Mr. Smith or Neo? There's a certain point where Mr. Smith is punching Neo in such a way that before he gives into his like, oh shit, I'm Neo, I can do whatever. You feel like he's got internal damage, like, and I think he even has like spittles of blood.
Yes, he does. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There is the way to it. I think CGI. Maybe this is like we're getting to like a wrap up, but use sparingly. Like I honestly think, and I don't even think people come fight back on me on this that much, but I honestly think Terminator 2 is one of the best films ever made for what it is. Like you could say, oh well, it's not it's not the acting, blah blah. Like it's a perfect storm of like Arnie only having certain acting abilities, but the CGI they only had a certain like they could only do so much then. But like a lot of that stuff is a mixture of practical and very minimal stuff. It holds up really well.
And they brought in for the Terminator 2 liquid effects, like when it's turning into things. They brought in the guy for the Thing that did the makeup in the Thing to kind of design the shape it and stuff. Which I can totally kind of see the influence.
And they've lots of like puppetry kind of work.
Yes, exactly. Like. See the part. I always thought the part where Robert Patrick gets the shotgun in his side and he's like. I always thought that was like CGI or something. That's a mannequin. That's a real practical thing that they built. Yeah, that's real. Like the face and everything, like the whole. There's no digital effects on that. That is, a man. That's a puppet that they built, which is incredible.
He actually had control over his own molecules. Yeah.
For that time. Yeah, it is actually Robert Patrick's a method actor. He just blew a big hole inside and painted it silver. No, but. So I think is that ours back to Chrissy? Have you got anything else?
I've got one that I kind of like. It's like I think it was in Ant-Man,
Right.
and it was Hank Pym.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Back in the Future, like Back to the Future, Back in the Past. Like I do what, and then punch that guy. Like it's something where you can see him. You can see he's like a 70-year-old man from a distance, and he's like walking 70-year-olds, and he's got like a 30-year-old's face. You're like, oh,
yeah.
I think that's good though. But you can kind of see as he's an old guy, but
Right.
it's good fun.
I would say so. In Ant-Man, at the start of the first Ant-Man, when you see him as a young man with a young Howard Stark and Peggy Carter's there and stuff. I think that scene looks great. I remember coming out of the cinema after seeing that and thinking that's the best I've done it so far. That's the best I've seen de-aging wise so far. But I was a bit let down in Endgame when they go back to young Hank Pym and he gets that phone
Oh, they
call
did it again. Yeah.
and he runs out the lab and that looks really
That
false.
looks
And I'm
bad.
like, how
Long
does
hair.
that look so much worse than the last time?
There's a lot of movement though in that one. Like
Maybe,
he's
I was
running.
thinking that's
That
maybe
one
what it is.
standing
And
still.
Ant-Man, he just kind of... Does he punch
Walks
Howard in
in.
the face? I feel like he punches Howard
He
and then he kind of shouts a bit.
The hair looks a bit weird.
Whereas in Civil War,
Endgame.
yeah, it's more like he gets the phone call, he's speaking, and then you see him running down the corridor, and it just looks off. You're like, this looks strange.
Yeah, I can actually, just from Googling here, I can see like both of them side by side, and Ant-Man looks way better.
Yeah, it's weird how it's kind of night and day.
And that's like the biggest movie of them all, Endgame. And
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
time where you're like,
Yeah.
don't drop the ball because everybody's seen this one. Everybody saw Ant-Man, so...
So what's that thing where just like about kind of like it's more of an editing fuck up, but Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne or Jesus, Ant-Man and the Wasp are in the bus, and then it just kind of cuts to Ant-Man pushing one of the big whale things back into a portal.
an Endgame.
Like, hold on, I just pop out for a second. Not CGI, but well, I guess it is technically CGI, but it's more of an editing fuck up.
However, I'm going to say, well, that I have noticed that's been pointed out to me before, but as Chris was saying earlier, it's Endgame. I forgive it. It's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had Cap holding wrong.
They got so much right.
It's fine.
So I think maybe with the solo films that I've talked about it in most of the reviews I've done is like they're under a time constraint that they maybe weren't. Let's say like with the Raimi films, even though the third film was a big mess of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think they're generally with the MCU films, they're under a serious time constraint to get them out. They don't have like, oh, we'll just push it back a couple of months. Obviously with the pandemic now, but I think that just like with the MCU, I'm like, okay, not to go too much with Scorsese, it's a different type of cinema. It's going to be a little bit more rough and ready in places. Like they have great stuff, but I that's why I kind of forgive the times when they kind of have like missteps like that.
Yeah.
And Endgame didn't really have much, like in fairness to it. Endgame, it's a real bang of quality when you're fucking watching it, like, or whiff of quality.
Do you have a second example, Jerd?
Do I have a second example?
If you don't, that's
me stalling. We're trying to fucking get through all these different tabs I've opened. Off the top of my head, well, it's not. I'm maybe not thinking of good examples, but I think it was the first time we'd really seen it. And that's just something else I'm not thinking of. Tron.
Right.
The Jeff Bridges Tron.
Uh-huh.
I think it came at a time when we hadn't really seen it. Even though I was watching something last night and there was some, right, it was on in the background, there was some film with they tried to do Humphrey Bogart that John Lithgow was in. I don't know what film it was.
Right.
He's like shown in a reflection. It was just came up in a compilation. But yeah, Tron, I think for our generation was probably the first time we'd seen it. I'm sure there's other examples, but I can't think of them. But that was like one of a lot of
major example, I'd say, like blockbuster example.
Yeah, I think in recent times, I think there maybe had been some little goes of it.
Yeah.
But like, a lot of people, it's easy to look back at an angle like, oh, it's got a PS2 graphics. But it's kind of like, thinking back to when I've seen that in the cinema, it's the same kind of vibe as when you're watching them now. You're watching it, you're like, it kind of works, but it doesn't.
I agree with your kind of opinion there. I think I actually remember seeing it at the time. I didn't go and see Tron, like I said, but I seen it, I guess, on DVD because it would have been that era where I used to watch DVDs before streaming. And I remember watching it and going, "Aye, this is cool. This is." I was into it. I was like, "I like this." It's only now, I think, in hindsight, as you're saying, Jerd, you look back now and you're like, "Oh, it looks kind of rubbery, cartoony." But at the time, I think it's because we hadn't seen it. I was like, "Oh, this is fascinating." I just kind of thought it was
kind of like doesn't
exciting
really look
thing,
believable, but like, what again? That's another digital world. Why do we always do that?
Is Tron made by Disney?
It is.
There's some. Disney's
the first
got
one wasn't, but I
shit
think they bought
effects,
it.
like they've got Mandalorian. If you took that Tron, it kind of looks like the fucking Luke Skywalker. Like it's kind of the same.
Yeah, but like I think that's a show that, like, but also I think Marvel are leading it. They've the best examples of it all around, and that's still Disney. Like, so
do you think there's different departments then? Like,
totally.
I was saying,
there's
other
own effects teams.
As,
even when you look at, I remember I was watching WandaVision and I saw the fucking Irish harp at the end of it. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't shoot any of that here, and I asked, and I'm I guess a failed filmmaker, so I'm still in like filmmaking groups in Ireland, and I just asked, I was like, what's this about? And someone who was more in the know was like, yeah, it's like companies in Ireland do effects on it, and then if you look at any other Marvel production, it changes all the time. So like, I can't, I'm not sure if I've seen the Irish film board symbol come up, but it's always like Quebec, Atlanta, like it changes with every film.
Yeah.
But they obviously have people who they return to now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think where we are now, you still get fucking shocking ones. Like I'm trying to think.
Well,
not to get other examples, but we still get shit ones now. So like looking back at Tron, I'm like, fuck it. You know, someone has to walk through the door first. Like
another Disney example was the Captain Jack one and the last Pirates of the Caribbean film.
Oh yeah,
weird as well. Weird and smooth.
That was
weird. Fresh out of the cloning tube, babies. That's what they all are. They're all just like.
Yeah, I don't know. It's odd. But
it's one of those.
We can go into the Captain Jack one, but to be honest, I think one of the kind of more blatant examples that was more kind of dialogue worthy, I think, was The Irishman with Robert Downey Jr. So when The Irishman came out, right, I was buzzing for it. I was super excited. I'm a mad Scorsese fan, and you've got three of the greatest actors ever in the same film. Mm-hmm. You know, with Pesci and De Niro and Pacino. And I remember watching it the first time, and I remember just before it came out, there was talk of the CGI DG and stuff, and there was a lot of, I don't know, this isn't great, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, which film was he? And I watched the movie, and the first time I watched the movie, it didn't bother me. It didn't affect me at all. I was like, it's fine, I've enjoyed it. The only kind of time I noticed it, specifically, there's a point where De Niro's beating somebody in the street. And it looks like a man in his 70s kicking. Yeah, it doesn't look like. And they're like, calm down, kid. And it's like, mate, he's at least 48. Do you know what I mean? Calm down, kid. I need bother. I don't know. It's just, he's maybe like in his 20s, and you're like, wait, what? But something else I was thinking, though, I also went back and there was a anniversary of Goodfellas, and they were showing it in cinema, so I went back to see that. And seeing that movie, Pesci and De Niro are supposed to be the same age. Like, I never realised that until very recently, because they get introduced as kids at the same age, and then you skip to, like, 5 years later, and you've got Ray Liotta and Joe Pesci, and you're like, he could be his dad. Like, they're really supposed to be the same age. So I think this is just something that Scorsese probably doesn't really care about in his films. It's more about the story he's telling, like, the actual way the character looks in terms of ages and stuff. It's kind of like, well, that's technicality. That said, The Irishman was one of the first examples where I seen it done amateurly by a deepfaker on the internet and done much better. I remember that YouTube video specifically. I can't remember if I find it. I'll link it below. But it was something that recreated that. So a few of the sequences specifically. I think the sequence where he's sitting in the restaurant talking to Joe Pesci, and the amateur version is so much better than the Netflix version, the official version.
That's like, it's so, like, see, when you think about it, The Irishman is a 3-hour movie. Mm-hmm. And that's basically the whole movie is all that CG. How expensive that fucking movie would have been. And
the interesting thing as well, right, is this was pioneering in the sense that it required very little of the actor. Because I think Scorsese knew he's working with three kind of
older gentlemen,
older, mature, experienced actors. They're not going to want to put on. They're in their 70s. They're not going to want to put on a big headset with lights and cameras pointing in their face. So if you watch the behind the scenes, it's literally like 5 dots on their face. So there's like one on their forehead, one on their nose, one on their chin, and one on either cheek. And it's obviously like kind of like the points, the focus points in the face. And literally, like Joe Pesci sitting, and that's always got on his face. You know, old man Joe Pesci that he is. He's in his, I think he's the oldest. I think he's 80. So he's talking away, and then it shows you the anti-age version, and you're like, oh, okay. With that little kind of, you know, on the face, I guess that's impressive that you were able to achieve, you know, that effect. And I think that is pushing the boundary. That's pioneering. It's better. Actors can obviously express better if they're not having to wear a big headset thing. However, that said, if a guy done it in his house and a you know, edit software, then why couldn't you guys do that in the studio? Like he didn't bring Joe Pesci in and put a headset on him. Like he worked from what you guys already put out. So
can
therefore you could have tweaked it more. And, do you know what I mean?
Get him sit down. You're putting on a whole suit. What are you doing? Come on, you know. I
think it's fascinating. What I also think it could lead to, I've heard before, like Nolan North, just talk about like voice actors, and also they have to do all the facial capture now. Tribeca Nolan North talks about Ashley Johnson. Nolan North has done stand-in voiceover for Christopher Walken before because he does such a good Christopher Walken impression. If you've not heard that,
in films that Walken's in.
And film that Walken's in. If
like
Walken
reshoots kind of thing.
Yeah, no, just the dubbing. If
or ADR.
If Walken, if Walken does the scene and certain lines are picked up and whatever, and he's busy doing something else, they'll phone Nolan North.
That's fucking
and he does the dubbing. So a lot of the time in movies, when you're watching Chris Walken, you're actually hearing Nolan North's impression.
That is crazy. I could imagine if it's a film that he was linked to and they couldn't get him back for the sequel or something.
Sure,
they do with Red Skull.
Yeah.
So have you got like a particular one? Is it like Seven Psychopaths?
I don't know actually. I think it's kind of been everything since the last 10 years, 15 years.
That is fucking gas.
That's amazing.
You can find no one else talking about it in interviews and stuff. But yeah, it's fascinating. And it also leads me to wonder, will we eventually, if we've got voice doubles, will we eventually have CGI doubles? Like, if an actor like De Niro doesn't want to put on a big dumb rig, get the standard in and put it on him. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if we're going to get to that stage where it's like almost like you're playing an actor playing a character. Do you know what I mean? Because very Tropic Thunder. I'm a dude disguised as a dude playing another dude. Like it gets very kind of Tropic Thunder. It's I don't know.
It'll be like avatars in games. You'll be the guy that's scanned in, and then you just put on that skin.
That's the next question. This is where I think we're all leading to. And this was my very first thought when I first seen Tron Legacy with Jeff Bridges. What happens once an actor dies, and how long is it morally okay to keep them alive in movies? Because we're talking about movies here on TV, but there's a lot of examples of like adverts where like they brought Bruce Lee back for like chewing gum, or was it? No, it was Japanese whiskey. Japanese whiskey was.
When
and
was
it
this?
looks a couple of years ago.
Oh, that happened a lot. It was like Coke or something. And that's even the thing. It was like, I guess the state signed off on it.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's not just then. It's been done. Steve McQueen, and it's been done with Marilyn Monroe. And it's been done with a lot of your kind of classic actors.
Short brown-haired woman.
Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, they did it with her recently. And was that not a Maltese advert or some shit? Like, you're like, this is weird.
It's always kind of odd stuff to bring them back to do it for. I'm pretty sure one of them was Coke, and like one of them was like just kind of some fucking confectionery or something.
Well, I'm sure the Audrey Hepburn one was a chocolate anyway, maybe in Revels or Minstrels or something. But yeah,
that's a bit too far for advertising purposes. That's really
well. That is the question, isn't it? It's like, well, where do you draw the line? Where do you?
Where's the moral
and then
code?
What about? I recently we'll get into the Sopranos movie that I've seen recently, Menace in New York, because I wrote a review for that on the website.
Oh, it's out.
Yeah, it's out. It's in the cinema. It's not out in streaming yet, but it's out in the cinema.
Okay.
It's out in streaming on the 1st, so a couple of days. Yes, so in that movie, obviously, Tony Soprano's son plays a young version of the character, which is fine. But it did make me wonder, well, what if eventually they want to do a Sopranos sequel? Could they then have the son play his dad and CGI him to be older son of Tony Soprano? And how would that feel? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that okay? It's a weird thought when you start thinking about it. You start this kind of existential questions. You're like, this is getting kind of nuts.
In that case, I don't think they'd have to, because it was kind of like, even just kind of talk like just something about the Irishman that I thought of. When they de-age a character, they're not really able to exactly recreate how that actor looked when they were young. They're kind of making a younger version of that character.
Right.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's not going to match up exactly. And then with a case like that with Michael Gandolfini,
Yeah.
he looks so much like his dad. Like, and I didn't think when I first heard of it, I was like, oh, he kind of looks like him. But them first fucking pictures from the set, and he just has that look on him. And you're like,
Yeah.
he is his father's son. Like, I don't think it's necessary at all to do that. They could do that with makeup.
No, but I'm talking about if they were to do a flash forward, a time jump. Do you know what I mean? Like a significant time
from
jump.
now.
Yes.
Before he's aged up.
Like, well, there are this movie takes you up to when Tony's about 19, 20. So they are talking about doing a movie of Tony in his 20s and kind of actually becoming important in the mob and rising his way up and all the rest of it. So they're talking about that as a sequel, but I'm just wondering if they make that movie and then what if they want to flash forward to when Tony's 60, 70? How that would be so strange. Imagine playing your own dad. Right, your dad's passed away. Imagine playing an age that he never got to. That would be surreal. That would be really weird, right?
Like, me kind of chills. I think it could be done though. Like, you might
totally. I'm sure it could, but I don't know. It's just odd to think about.
It's kind of like
did he not
passing
get
the
killed,
torch.
though, in the end, in the last
Sorry?
episode? Did Tony not get killed in the sandwich bar?
No one knows. It cut to black mid sentence.
It's up to your imagination, but yes, they totally set it up that he's dead. In my opinion,
I think David Chase had a wee bit of slip of the tongue during an interview where he confirmed it either way. I can't remember what he said, but there is an interview out there where he says something about when Tony died or when Tony something. And he was like, "Oh shit, you can't see."
Yeah, but they say like in the last season, like obviously it's not. It doesn't mean it's fact, but they literally say it's like they set it up in the story of the world. Him and Bobby, I think, are talking, and they're like, when you die, I think everything just goes black. So it might, like, I can't, like, arguably that's just what the character said, but it's a story, it's written that way.
Yeah.
I can't see it any other way. Maybe not, but
at the same time, I'm still not happy with the ending of Sopranos, so see if they would like to go back and do a Dexter to it, I'd be fine with that. Because I did it with Dexter, so...
Oh shit, the power cut! Okay. The power's back on. Like, that's what we're running.
It's lovely. I think it could be actually really interesting. I could see him doing sequels until he gets to Tony, like maybe his age, when he gets married and stuff like that. And
they can bring it. Like, Jesus, I'd fucking happily watch another season. Well, the only thing is, once David Chase, like, touch wood or touch whatever this imitation wood thing is, my laptop is on. Once David Chase is gone, I think that's when you kind of separate from it too much. And he's pretty old now too.
Well, David Chase didn't direct Menaces in New York, but that was due to personal issues. I think it was a family thing.
I think
he wrote it, but Alan Taylor, who did direct some of The Sopranos, he stepped in to direct the movie. So
okay, yeah. Yeah, he was on Mark Maron, who I'm a fucking massive fan of, interviewed him, and I think I haven't listened to the interview, but someone in like a Mark Maron fan group was saying that David Chase said during the interview that he wasn't feeling great. Like he said himself he wasn't feeling up to doing press.
Right.
So like unfortunately he has some issues.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say they've got about 7 series. Is it 7 6 series of Sopranos? So they've got all that material just to work with. So it's like everything's there. Like if they wanted to do a sequel,
they could definitely build it up. Like do a trilogy of films. Like fuck it, yeah, I definitely.
Obviously we're in the age of like remakes in terms of movies. But I think on TV we're more in the age of like epilogues and prologues because you had like El Camino for Breaking Bad, you had this Sopranos prequel.
Oh yeah, never seen that.
You had
Better Call Saul.
They're doing it with The Walking Dead. They went back to before that happened. So we are in that kind of era for kind of adding on. Dexter obviously is having its kind of return. So I don't know. It's just there's precedent for it.
I could see like
money on the table for HBO. So
in 20 years, like I remember a friend of mine was saying, which like to some people like, oh, that's fucking hyperbole, but like or hyperbole or whatever the fuck that word is. Someone was like, Sopranos is the Shakespeare of our time, and I was like, I don't know, so many different forms of art now. Like, and even if you think like, will people really be looking at Sopranos in fucking 100 years? You know, that's a very big judgment to make. But at the same time, there's so much fucking to Sopranos. There's like, you know, I honestly feel for me, top shows ever. Like The Wire, I see how you could argue The Wire, but as a personal choice, I think Sopranos, even though the characters are all fucking horrible, and most of the characters are horrible, and I think me just personally, Sopranos captures more. It's realistic, it's cinematic, but it also has a certain warmth to it, even with these horrible characters. That like it just captures the like, and again, I'm gonna do it again, the human condition so well that I think it is something that like you just like I was hoping to rewatch it all before it came out.
Me too.
And
then it came out, and I was like, "Oh, I'm
like,
so
oh, I'm not going to get fucking through it all. It's great, but it's
that
just
said,
so good."
But that said, after watching it, I do want to go back and rewatch it again. Like after watching the movie, I'm right in the mood to watch it. But you need to remember the first couple of seasons, you get the black bars on the other side of your screen. And that's always a struggle to go back to older shows. Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the same. You go back to the start of that, and the first few seasons, you're like, oh, this is... Until it goes widescreen, it bothers me.
The good thing, connected to Jerd's thing, the reason that it's so good is because it's the romanticises the fucking criminal thing. He's a human guy. He's going to therapy. He's fucking having panic attacks. He doesn't know what's going on. He's like too deep, and you connect to him in a weird way. You're like, fuck.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
The movie helps with that as well. But we'll get to the movie review before we move on. We're still in.
That was a big Sopranos chunk right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we jump on, I just want to hit on Star Wars. Let's just do Star Wars.
Let's go. Let's whack it. Let's whack it in the back.
Right. Well, I just hit you with a few of them. You can just tell me yay or nay.
Oh yeah.
Right. Grand Moff Tarkin and Rogue One. Let's start with him.
Oh, it's I would say yeah.
It's a no from me, dog.
Oh, Simon.
Do you want to know what pissed me off so much about Tarkin?
There you go.
I love that character. I love Peter Cushing. I think the fact they brought him back was really cool. I like the actor that's playing him, who
looks exactly like him.
Off the top of my head, but I'll get to that, right? That's what pissed me off, right? So in Rogue One, right? Great movie, phenomenal Star Wars movie, one of my favourites. You get this shot of a reflection of what is clearly Grand Moff Tarkin. It's this kind of big, intimidating guy in the grey suit with the grey hair. You see him from the back, and you see his face in this reflected window, and it looks great. And you get chills. You're like, oh my god, they've brought Tarkin back. This is awesome. This is so. I was buzzing, mate, when they done that. And then he turns around, and you see weird PS3.
Weird smooth. That's the key.
That's the thing, right? Tarkin isn't. I wouldn't say Tarkin's smooth because he's an older gentleman, but the wrinkles are shiny, which is weird. Like it's not like they're not matte enough. They're too glossy.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say smooth because they have put in like wrinkles and stuff, but they're too shiny. It just looks bizarre.
I don't know why they use that actor. I guess because they need someone who can act too, but he doesn't look anything like the other guy.
Was it not like? Was he not actually a Tarkin in the third one? Like
So
he walked up.
Yeah, I think he was in. I think he was in
the Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith, yeah. Well, see, my argument after that point when he turned around, right, and I came out to cinema, I was like, why didn't you just use? Because I know the actor that played him, and I was like, he looks enough like Peter Cushing that you could just stick out a makeup on him, and it would have been so much better. The guy
who was in Harry Potter. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Hold on, I'll see if I'm
just seeing like here heading the Harry Potter actor behind.
I think he's Welsh, I want to say.
He's a kind of similar head shape, but like I don't think he looks like him at all.
Oh, I think he's extremely like him.
I think it's more fucking gaunt cheekbones, and his nose is down more. I guess the jaw is roughly similar.
They're very alike.
For me, I can see the head shape all right, but when you actually get into the specifics of the face, but I guess that's the thing they're going to be changing.
Hold on, actually, I won't get the guy's name.
I think it's one of the. It goes into that category as well. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You can see the posters behind me. I've loved their series, so it's like he's quite of a. It's kind of like just a moment that I'm fine with it. You know, like he's good enough. But I did see like a deep fake of it, and it was 10 times better than the actual. Yeah. So I'm like, why Disney? Why are you making things cheap or
Like,
shit.
even those Corridor Crew guys have done like versions of like any they're trying to recreate things. But like, can they not use like a mixture of deepfake and CGI?
Guy Henry. I finally found his name.
Guy Henry. Guy Henry.
So yeah. So you're Tarkin, and like I said, I personally I'd rather just seen Guy Henry with makeup on. But let's get to Leia, who appears at the end of that movie briefly.
Oh
yeah, that was terrible. That was
right.
Bad.
I'm gonna take devil's advocate. I thought it was alright.
Better than Tarkin though.
Well, when I came out the film, I thought Tarkin was weird, but Leia looked alright. That was in comparison. I felt better. And then I went onto Facebook and Twitter and I seen everybody bashing the Carrie Fisher one and saying that the Moff Tarkin one was better. And I read all these articles about how, they had to do Carrie Fisher, but they spent so much more time and the technology was better on Tarkin. And I'm like, really? I think it looked worse. And I think that kind of shows you that these things are quite subjective, I think. Because it's a human face, it is quite subjective, I think, of how you see it. I think the Leia one, I don't know if it's just because she's only got the one line and it's a really brief scene.
She's standing still.
But yeah, I don't know. It was much better. In my opinion. But as I said, I know I'm the minority on that.
I think when we get like what's the fucking Dr. Malcolm line? They were so concerned with whether they could, they didn't stop and ask whether they should. I think at a certain point, fucking actors like. A lot of people, it's funny, say Sebastian Stan would make a great stand-in for Mark Hamill, but like he's like, I'm like twice his age when he was in the Star Wars films. I wonder if he ever was.
He looks young, it's fine.
But then we have like, say, give it like 10 years, probably not even, but 11 from Stranger Things. She'd make a great Princess Leia.
Yeah,
and like,
sure.
just, like people can take it, okay, it's a different actor. We don't need this ropey looking. I'm starting to think more like we don't fucking need, like, just get an actor who looks roughly well. They exist. There's plenty of actors out there. Yeah. Like, it's funny what I often think with this stuff, the idea of having like just a fully CGI version of the actor. I'd say we probably will get that. That'll probably be a whole genre once technology is there. But like 2000 AD, like Marvel comics and DC comics do too. Like Marvel, for a particular artist, I don't know if it's more than one artist, but for a particular time there, anytime Norman Osborn showed up, he was, I think it's just by one artist, I can't think of the name of him, but Norman Osborn was drawn to look like Tommy Lee Jones for years. Like, maybe it's just the one artist who kept doing it, but I remember a 2000 AD story where they basically just got a load of blockbuster actors, and it was like a space story. It was like a one-shot issue. And it was like Will Smith, Bruce Willis, Demi Moore, and like, the character. There only is one issue, but they all die off during it. I'm sure it will become a genre, like let's have Bruce Willis. Well, they're doing that with him now.
Yes, they are in an advert, right?
Is
it for? It's for like Russian health insurance or something. And the article headline I seen was, he's finally done it. Bruce Willis has finally figured out how to make $1 million without doing any work. And it was just literally this company phoned his agent and was like, can we use his face? And they were like, yeah, $1 million. And they were like, I didn't bother. And that's it. That was a phone call, and you get paid $1 million for nothing. For not even, he didn't need to go to Russia, didn't need to film anything. It was another actor that just CGI'd his face on.
He's been on that trajectory for a while. I think was it Colin Farrell was in Tigerland with him. And I don't know if it was called like Colin Farrell on the Graham Norton show or something was saying, or I don't know where exactly I heard it. Colin Farrell was like his first day acting against Bruce Willis. And he's like, fuck, he's really psyching himself up for it. He has like, I'm acting with fucking Bruce Willis. I have to really try this. Like, Colin Farrell goes in, does his lines, gives it his fucking best, like sweat coming off his brow and everything. Bruce Willis is apparently just looking at him dead in the eye when the camera's turning around to him, and he just goes, line. Someone tells him his line, and he just fucking just shoots it out like. And that's Tigerland, which was like 2000 or something So.
That's one thing I've heard about Kevin Smith. Like, Kevin Smith working with Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's not as charming as you think. Like, he's like from Die Hard. You're thinking, he's going to be a great badass. He's a badass, and you're like, come on, mate.
Yeah.
You're a fucking millionaire.
there was something there where, like, I think it was like an article came out that he refused to wear a mask somewhere, but
Yep. Yeah,
I think his
sure.
daughter came out afterwards, or
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
before that. He is supposed to have some like hearing issues, and like it mightn't all just be he's an absolute prick. But I don't know. The way Kevin Smith relayed that story, he did sound quite prickish, like. But you don't know. You hear stories of people you don't know, and it's very easy to make judgments, like. But
one last Star Wars one. I think that there's a few more examples in Star Wars, but I think the one we need to focus on is Luke Skywalker and the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
We briefly mentioned Sebastian Stan as a stand-in. Again, that example you want to talk about deepfakes being better than the original. A guy made a deepfake and it looks night and day better than the original, and he's now been hired by Lucasfilm to come and work as an animator.
No way!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah. I love hearing that stuff.
So, well, that's the thing. Like, give Disney their due. They've seen that and they've went, "Oh well, he's done it better than us, so let's get him." Like, fair enough. Aye.
Awesome.
If you can't beat them, join them, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
See, that's something that Jerd, see one thing when I was thinking about it, you need to have this because the stories are going to continue. Mark Hamill's might not be here for long. Oh, bless his soul. But like, exactly. But it's like Sebastian Stan. I thought that was quite good. But you're right. He is about 40 when he's supposed to be 20. So it's like, okay, but they need to just replace the actors now with maybe lookalikes or something like that.
Well, there's a big question mark over the next Indiana Jones film. There's rumours that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in line to replace the character as the main lead.
Is she called
Will they de-age Harrison Ford for this one? Probably, since it's the in thing to do right now.
For a scene or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I find that an interesting.
Didn't they do that for like one of the earlier films or something?
Oh, they did. They made him young. Was it not in Crystal Skull when they made him younger at some point? Like Indiana Jones?
Oh.
It may not have been
Crystal Skull. I thought that's Harrison Ford related, but I'll throw it in after.
Oh, I can't remember.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm happy with everything we've kind of spoken about. I don't know if there's any other examples. A good example I'm going to throw out was that I think might be the best example is Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel. That's a whole movie. Sam Jackson hasn't aged a great deal. He still looks, for his age, like a younger man. So I think that's kind of a big part of it.
He's a handsome man.
And again, there's certain points in that movie where I think he bends down in one knee to pick up the cat, and then that's when you're like, "Oh, that's."
There's some action bits, yeah.
This is the guy that's there. This is the guy that's pushing 70. So there's some bits like that you can kind of see in his movement, but for the most part, it was immersive and it felt like a young Nick Fury. It felt.
Yeah. I think that's kind of along the lines of like it doesn't exactly look like young Sam Jackson. It's a bit different, but it's a younger version of the character.
Yeah,
and I think it doesn't stick out as badly as the. I think it's either from talking here. I'm like they either need to get good body, more use of like physical stand-ins. I think it's probably one of the better Marvel. Well, most of the Marvel ones are quite good, but
Kurt Russell.
I was like, what's on the end of that? It's not Russell Crowe.
Guardians 2.
Yeah, like that apparently was using. There was that's like a mixture of, and maybe that's how Marvel do it all the time, but a mixture of like stand-in face thing, prosthetics kind of, and actually I think it was like Watch Mojo. The way they said it too actually made a lot of sense. The performance of the actor can help you sell it a lot. Like if you're enjoying the performance. We can get past it. If they're acting well enough, you can get past a little bit more of the ropey stuff. But was there just one I didn't think of earlier was Blade Runner. Now, it wasn't de-aging because they didn't have the actress, I don't think. I don't think she was involved at all. But
Sean Young.
Sean Hayes? No, that's Sean Hayes is just Jack from fucking Will and Grace. Hayes?
Sean Young.
Yeah. That was pretty, like, it's a little bit of ropiness to it, but, like, it really works, I think, too. That's probably one of the better examples I can think of all. I think that's one of the, like, you did a pretty fucking good job there, like.
Yeah.
It's hard to fault that.
Oh.
Okay, so unless I just get any else last-minute examples, I think that's just kind of covered it. If you want to dive into the news.
There you go.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, it has been a pretty slow news day, news week even. There's really not that much that's happened. However, we'll go through it nonetheless.
Positive.
First thing, this isn't really big news, but it's tied to a review that I wrote. I wrote a review for Shang-Chi on the website, which I'll link below, and it's been confirmed that that's coming to Disney Plus on the 12th of November. If you didn't get to the cinema to see it, then you can see it soon. This one I thought was interesting. This is a story that is actually Star Wars related, and it was a story that said the original editor of the Star Wars films was furious at the sequel trilogy. It said that they basically don't get the story, they don't get the magic of it. He's messed it up, blah blah blah. Yeah. A couple of ways to look at this. There's one kind of old person shouts at a cloud, this isn't my Star Wars kind of attitude to it, but at the same time, it's the sequels aren't great movies, but it's also easy to say that now, that they've been out and they've been kind of publicly slagged, and it's kind of popular opinion to hate on them. So I think that could have an angle on it as well. But this is something that was involved with Star Wars kind of for the early days, so I think it does need to be taken quite legitimately. What do you think? Yeah.
Was it his wife? Is that what it
is? I think it was
an editor.
Yes, I think it was the editor. But she might be something to Lucas. I don't know if she was related to him or.
Was she married to Lucas? I didn't know that.
She's spouse. I don't know, but it
was something. Oh, I can't remember.
Because I think she was kind of like all power to her. I think she was shit talking the prequels too.
Oh, really? Talking about the prequels?
Yeah. So I don't think she was married to Lucas. Unless that was the case. I don't know. Maybe maybe there was enough of a gap between their marriage that she felt like, oh yeah, I'll talk shit about it.
No, it's something about I love Star Wars, but I was always on day one when I first watched The Force Awakens. I was like, all right, okay, this isn't the kind of Star Wars that we're used to. It's going to be it's just hitting us with just memorabilia.
Yeah, or maybe it kind of is to a fault. Like a lot of people say, yeah, it's just a New Hope again.
Yeah, it's exactly, and you're like, all right, okay, what's the next stage of it? Because even the prequels, at least they gave a good enough story to continue each segment. The first one, second one when he's like finding Anakin, the second one when he's like training him, the third one when he turns into Darth Vader. This one, I don't really know. If you could, is there any kind of foundation to that Star Wars? Do you think? What's
it maybe felt a bit unfocused. Now, we've talked about it the last time we were on together. I'm not a massive Star Wars fan, and I've only seen Force Awakens. I haven't seen the other two.
It was his wife.
From
1969 to 1983. So she was the editor.
Okay.
I heard something it was like, you have to edit this movie because if I give it to another editor in LA, they'll edit it as just an action flick. I need you as just a different point of view just to make it not an action flick. So I heard it was something to do with that. I remember hearing that ages ago.
I guess there's because I think I only seen you see the thumbnails, the articles coming up. It didn't mention, you just said editor, but I guess they were only married for 13 years and it was so far back. But that's gas.
No, it's interesting. She's actually got the. I mean, she's got nothing to do with it anymore, so she's just probably just saying.
So 83. When did the last? Not last. When did Return of the Jedi come out?
When did the last prequel? 83. 83 was with Return of the Jedi, so she was.
Yeah. Kevin Smith in his pod was talking about it last week, and I thought there was something like maybe she had issues with Return of the Jedi even.
Oh, she probably did.
Going back. I hate this film so much. We're getting fucking divorced.
I done too. You forced me for the third one, but it's see, but there's ups and downs all the way through Star Wars, but it's I don't know what it is, but it was just you watched it when you were young, you watched it with your dad and your mom when you're growing up, so there's really sentimental value to it, and you're like, right, okay. You had the VHS, that's showing my age a little bit.
Yeah.
You had the VHS, put in a tape recorder, it didn't work for a wee while, and you were like hoping, and then it would like, go into the full movie, and the big Star Wars, the credits would roll up. But yeah, I feel like I don't know if it is. I used to always put it down to this when it was the Star Wars, the Force Awakens, and the Last Jedi and stuff like that. I don't know if I've grew out it. You know, if I like grew out the kind of I watch it, but you know, I'm kind of older now. It's a weird kind of sad moment you have for yourself. You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But it's always funny too, because when you think of like when a film comes out, the next generation will see it. Like even if you're 18, like a 10-year-old, they see that film when they're 10, they just love it. They don't care. Like
Exactly.
it makes a huge difference. And then people grow up people grow up then, and they just grow up with that love for it.
Mm-hmm. But it's, like, what was there any things that you had disconnect with the sequels? Is there anything that you looked at was like, oh, or did you enjoy them? I'm stepping on your toes saying.
Well, I was never like, even though I think I've said it in most, like I only went to watch the A New Hope to Return of the Jedi as an adult, and I was like, I can't stick this acting. Like,
Can't stick it.
I don't want to be
remember
repeating myself too much. I feel like I'm like, even from when I was doing it last week, I was like, have I just said the same things again?
I just said it in 3 weeks.
I my nerd topics that I just repeat all the time. It's funny even because like I have like different nerd friends online from different things. I'm like, have I told you this story before? Yeah, I'm not really. I don't have enough of an investment, and like Star Wars fans are. I'd probably be shot just for even mentioning. So I don't think I'm enough of an authority on Star Wars to really comment on it even.
But Dan, that it was his wife. She edited
Yeah.
from the Hope to the Return of the Jedi, so she must be pissed. But actually, you're probably right. She probably is talking about the prequels as well, like the New Hope. No, New Hope. Return of the Jedi.
Speaking of people's comments, this one is way more lighthearted. Topher Grace did an AMA on Reddit, and he was asked if he's in the new Spider-Man. Have you heard this, Chris?
No, is it in the new Spider-Man?
So Topher Grace's answer to whether he's playing Venom in the new Spider-Man was, please keep it between us, but yes, I'm in it. The plot starts with Peter Parker, brackets Tom Holland, bummed that everyone knows his identity, and then some crazy shit happens with Doctor Strange and Doc Ock. He comes into his dimension. Then Electro and the Green Goblin hop out of one of those energy circles, and they're like, it's spider stomping time. Then Tom Hardy and I pop out and battle each other, and I win, obviously. It's not even like a fight, I just kick his ass immediately. Not to give too much away, but there are also some actors from the original Spider-Man show in the 70s, Aquaman, Batman, brackets Affleck, not Keaton, and thanks to Disney, Han Solo's Ghost from The Rise of Skywalker. Oh, and that Eve robot from WALL-E. Again, please keep it between us. I thought that was a phenomenal answer, because instead of being like Andrew Garfield and be like, oh, it's a Photoshop, and like Topher Grace has just felt like, and I've been like, you are all heavy sad for trying to guess this, so I'm just going to take the piss. So yeah, pretty good.
And it's like there's like, it's like sometimes I just want to just don't tell me. Like, I've not watched, like, for like even like the Justice League movie, I didn't even want to watch a trailer because I wanted to actually watch the movie. Like, there's now I've just don't want to watch trailers now. Just go in blank.
See, a lot of folk do that, right? And a lot of folk say that, especially online. Like, I think it's hard when you're part of like a podcast like this. It's kind of obviously it's hard to not do that. Because I remember Ben was saying the same thing. But I think I don't know. I've never really been of that opinion. I'm a guy. I don't really get the whole. Oh, don't spoil it! Don't spoil it.
No, I don't care about that. No,
like I've never even wanted to care about spoilers. I can still enjoy something if I know how it ends. It's never really been an issue to me, but I also realise it's an issue to other people. So that's why I'm kind of careful, because I don't want to ruin it for somebody else. But for me personally, it's never like, I knew how Breaking Bad ended before I got around to watching it. I knew how loads of films that I've seen over the years, like the ending before you watch it, and I can still appreciate it and still enjoy it. Like I still enjoy Fight Club, but obviously I know the twist. It's like there's no.
I think with nerd stuff, it's a bit different. Like maybe it's obviously annoying if you get a spoiler, but like
I'd say nerd culture on the internet are definitely more sensitive to it. I'm a Reddit geek, so I'll sit in Reddit for hours, and like your Scorsese Reddits, nobody really cares about leaks or spoilers, whereas you go over to like a Marvel one and it's either people asking for leaks, like, does anybody know what's happening with this guy, or it's people being like, stop talking because of the spoilers and make sure you flag your post spoilers so I can't look at it and that, and you're like,
I don't even like to tell people if I like the film or not, like on their behalf for spoilers. But then at the same time with nerd stuff, you're like, you always want to know more information until you like. It's like, what is it? Something about the Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't even know if it's true, but I'm not going to say what it is. But I'm like, the YouTuber's like, spoilers from this point. I'm like, it's not really going to be spoilers, is it? And then he said like 2 sentences. I was like, fuck. I don't know if it's true.
I've never had that effect on me, spoilers. Like, I don't mind. I love listening to podcasts. There's a question, obviously we do a lot of reviews on the website. Do you guys read a review before you see a film, or does that affect your opinion going in?
After.
Yeah.
Even if
I'm not, I'm before. Like,
yeah.
People like Jeremy Jazz and Chris Stuckman, as soon as the film is out, I'll go and watch their review.
They don't do spoilers though. I don't think really.
They don't do spoilers.
They're good for it. Like, if I'm confident that I know the reviewer, Mark Kermode is good too in that way. He's obviously more literary than them maybe, but I view the three of them nearly the same way. Yeah. They're usually pretty safe, unless it's something I really want to watch. But then I really like watching reviews. Like I'll happily. Sometimes I just want to watch the film so I can watch YouTubers talk about it.
Yeah, totally. It's good to keep part of the conversation. But I don't have a line. Like if I'm listening to Mr. Sunday Movies, for example, or like Weekly Planet podcast, and they also do their non-spoiler section and their spoiler section, I never skip the spoiler section. Like if I've not seen the film, I'll just listen to the whole podcast. Yeah. It's never.
Sometimes with them, I'm like, I kind of want to watch the film, but I want to hear them talk.
It's a toss-up.
If I only have to miss out in 7 minutes, I'm like, it depends. I won't always like Malignant. They reviewed last week, and it's like some people are like, it's good, but it's not good. So I'm like, maybe I'll hold off. But I definitely have room films just because I want to hear them talk about it.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Malignant, but I know the twist. I've heard the twist.
Yeah.
And I still want to see that.
I've heard a lot of people say, it's fantastic, but really disappointing at the same time. I'm like, okay.
That's a twist.
I put it in the chat, but just if you didn't miss it, I think the biggest nerd news that kind of only really came out yesterday, the Ditko Ditko estate, Larry Lieber, which is Stanley's brother, I believe is still alive, and some other. I posted a Deadline article in the chat.
Yeah, I've got it open.
Yeah, and there's a couple other Marvel creators who maybe aren't, like, I never heard of anyone else being credited for Thor, even though Thor is a Norse god. Don Heck, who I've heard the name of before, who worked on Iron Man. I don't know how much. Don Rico, Black Widows, and Gene Nolan. A couple of us are basically, they're trying to like cut for the jugular and sue Marvel out of Spider-Man, Iron Man, Ant-Man, Black Widow, Captain Marvel, Falcon, Blade, Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, because it's Ditko's estate, are the biggest things. I guess there was a Superman case a couple of years ago, in like 2014, I think it says in the article. I can't see anyone beating Disney in court. No matter.
No, well, that's what I was going to say. It's Disney you're up against. Like, I know Steve Ditko's probably got, his family's probably got money to throw at them, but it's Disney.
What was there like a result with the Scarlett Johansson case? Is that still ongoing? Like,
I assume it's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. Yeah.
All right,
I don't think they've a leg to stand on there, and she'll have backing by. Like, even I think a couple of weeks, if you go back, the fucking. Sorry, I really should at least curtail my cursing a bit. The Russo brothers, I thought that was very... Because, like, when that first came out, it was like, how was no one standing up for her? Like, yes. I know Disney have so many pots, many pies, but, like, when Chris Pratt was... Oh, that's actually another bit of news.
Yeah, we'll get it.
When he was criticised for his relations to the church,
Yeah.
LGBT, anti-LGBT church. Like, all the actors came out in defense of him straight away. But like,
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson,
Mate,
like,
James Gunn, what he was getting accused of, and they all came out and defended him.
yeah, but Scarlett
Do you know
Johansson,
what I mean?
like, F all, like, a handful. Batista came out, but I think he was nearly like not in defense of her. He was like, "Oh, big deal" or something like.
I like Batista, but see more and more, he's got a big mouth, man. He's starting to kind of
Yeah, like he was
so did you
he
play
put
Jack.
his heart on the line for James Gunn straight away. But I was like, "Are you kind of like dissing her?" Like, I know Scarlett Johansson, like, there's other issues people have with her, but like, I was just of the mind of she's a person against a giant company, and if they can do that, like, as a lot of people are saying, if they can do that to her,
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh, it's Disney," but Disney are like, it's a giant company. Like, they're of course evil. Like, there's no way they're not all above board on everything. Like,
yeah, totally.
but the Russo brothers came out in defense of her, saying like, "Well, we're not going to do Secret Wars then." And I think Elizabeth Olsen, she was kind of like, "Oh, she's very strong for doing that." She was, but a lot of the actor like Robert Downey Jr., you would have thought might have had more words to say. Now, maybe they're doing stuff behind the back. Robert Downey Jr. is a very rich man. I'm sure he'd probably, again, Scarlett Johansson's a very rich woman. So, like, I could imagine there's stuff going on behind the scenes. But, like, is it really that much to just throw a few words of support publicly out there? So, to go back to the case, I don't see them winning against Disney. They might get a big settlement.
Yeah.
But I think some people...
Disney can afford that settlement as well, so it's...
Yeah. I think what some people were saying, that even if they did get the rights back out of them, it would either force... Like, Marvel could lose... Like, I don't think it's going to happen, but Marvel could lose Spider-Man entirely. Sony could then have the sole rights. Or... Well, hopefully not.
I hate that.
Or Marvel would be forced, like, it could work out in a way that Marvel would just have to throw them shit tons of money, but then own Spider-Man entirely again. Which I think is the best case. Like,
I say for the consumer, that's the best case.
Yeah.
Personally.
I don't really want to read Spider-Man, like the recent Nick Spencer run, I didn't really, like, I was like, oh, that seems kind of cool when it first came out, but like, I don't really want to read it. Hopefully what's happening now with the relaunch, was it Arthur Adams is doing the art? And Ben Reilly's coming back. Like, I'm interested in seeing that, but I don't really want to be like Spider-Man not in the Marvel universe. I'm like, ugh.
Aye, come on.
Yeah. You want him. Like, I know he can work.
He's the main. He's one of the main. Like, see, really, for me, it was always Spider-Man. It was the entry point because it was the kind of you could connect to him.
Yeah.
And then maybe Wolverine because he was rough. And then, like, see, Iron Man, I wasn't really a fan of him until RDJ.
Yeah. But he was B-list up until that point.
He wasn't the main guy, but he is the main because he done it. He is the main guy now. But like, it's I mean, they can't do that as Big Spidey, man. Stan Lee would disapprove if he was there. Fucking hell.
Yeah, but I think I always thought it was a fact, but I tried to Google it recently. I think someone jumped ahead, but I think Spider-Man, at least for a long period of time, his merch outsells. I don't think it's every superhero combined, but he is.
Yeah.
What's that? Streets Ahead? I can't remember what sitcom that's from. He is miles ahead of other superheroes. But I did Google it recently, and like, I was like, maybe that's not the case anymore. But for a long time, his merch outsold any superhero.
Wow.
Batman, Superman, anybody like.
That was a big part of the original collaboration deal with Disney and Sony. Was that one of them would get the box office income, and the other person would get the merchandise. And
I think Disney always had the merch.
Yeah,
or Marvel before.
I think that's why they kind of walk to be happy, because, and I would guess that the merchandise is probably a lot more than the box office.
Oh yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Crazy to think.
The last relevant bit of news I would say is the Chris Pratt casting to play Mario. This was announced at the Nintendo Direct that happened the other day. There was some other stuff for that, but it was not really worth going over. But yeah, Chris Pratt being cast as Mario. What do you make of this? What's going on?
I think it's a headline name. It's the exact same thing as Jurassic Park. They're getting somebody that's quite box office money wise and showing them in. I don't think I mean, I might be completely wrong. You might completely disagree. I don't think he wants to do Mario. Jake they just shoved a bucket of money to him.
Do you know something? I'm gutted that Massimo's not here this week because I really want to ask him
Oh
what he
shit!
thinks.
Yeah.
There's not one Italian actor that's ever played Mario. That's kind of weird. Like Bob Hoskins and Chris Pratt, like two really white dudes playing an Italian father.
Charlie Day is which I didn't know, I had to Google, but Charlie Day is at least half Italian.
Yeah, he's late. You're right.
But even if he's going to put on I guess he can put on I don't know. It's good. I just don't
like,
get Chris Pratt.
An accent. I don't like Chris Pratt either.
No, I think this is really like that. The stuff about him from the past and like his affability was great in Guardians 1. It's been stretched too thin. I think for me, I've just been I've been sharing this joke everywhere. I'm just like Chris Pratt, more like Chris Pratt. I'm like, got him. But it's just like I felt compelled to write that anywhere. Like I put it on my Insta stories and everything. It's just like he's really pushed it. Like it's too much. I'm like he really like I think he's crossed a line now where he should have really held back. He had great affability when he started, all that kind of like
overexposure.
Yeah, that and then his links to whatever viewpoints. I can't stop doing fucking air quotes. I think it just pushed it too much, and I'm like, I just dislike the guy now. And he should have just said like, if he's been hired for something, fair enough, but like, why? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, weird.
He's no Italian heritage whatsoever. He's not even like. Should they not have like had the foresight to go? Okay, maybe Chris Pratt isn't that popular anymore.
Yeah.
If people liked him, and then there was a certain element where like, well, he's not Italian, but he's hilarious. Like people don't like him as much anymore. He's really.
But he is still being pushed as a frontman. I mean, there was that Tomorrow War that came out, the Amazon one, and he was in one before that was fairly popular. He's still being pushed as a kind of Hollywood kind of hunk, big kind of leading man, and I never liked the guy. I don't think he's funny.
Yeah, there's that weird thing where like studios and the money people have it's like their head is in the sand for what people actually want.
Totally.
A lot of like the Spider-Man Sony decisions are like that too, where it's like not so much the casting exactly, but story-wise or whatever. Or like even going back to that kind of idea of like if something's good, just make it good. Don't like studio it. Just give it a good director, give it a good script, give it time, and like. I just don't see the disconnect. I don't see how they could go, oh yeah, let's put Chris Pratt. Everybody loves Chris Pratt. It was 5 years ago, yes, but like, how are you so blind on that?
Yeah, but then again, James Gunn's a hot property now. He's a wanted man in Hollywood.
Who?
James Gunn.
Oh yeah. Disney.
I would argue that he's been doing the same shtick for years and it's getting old. And there's also all the accusations and stuff that's come out about him. And he's still very popular. It's not really affected his career at all.
I think I wouldn't have thought.
Anyway,
I thought there would be more goodwill towards him now.
I've never been a fan of James Gunn either, to be honest.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we go for like a mini fan casting for who would maybe be a better Mario.
Sure. Okay.
This is a real smorgasbord of a fucking podcast. Oh, Michael Imperioli. No, that's not his real name.
I was going to say that's a character, Jerd.
Michael Imperioli. Well, the guy from Sopranos. I was thinking Gandolfini, and Gandolfini was Italian, but his son isn't really much of an actor. Yeah, well, he doesn't have much of a character. Not saying he's not a good actor.
There's my pick, Michael Gandolfini, because there's certain points in Menace in New York that I could actually see him as Mario. Yeah, sure. But no, hold on a minute. There's a Photoshop of Robert Pattinson from The Lighthouse and the Mario colours, smoking a cigarette, and he's like a kind of really gritty Mario. I want to see that.
I mean, I guess because
another white guy.
What about Robert Dorito? Not Dorito. What about him and Al Pacino? That would be brilliant.
I guess because Italian actors usually work in Italian language, we don't really have like I was googling here and everyone is either dead or really old when I Google Italian actor.
Here, there we go. Let's go topic related. CGI Marlon Brando. Mario. There we go. We're full circle. We're full circle now.
Italian American. Even when you Google Italian, Nicolas Cage,
Matt LeBlanc.
Bradley Cooper.
Matt LeBlanc would not be a bad choice.
Right?
Exactly.
Danny DeVito. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito.
No, Danny DeVito is Waluigi. That's what I want.
Someone who's the evil version of Waluigi.
Yeah, Waluigi.
Someone was like, if they don't cast Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, true.
Mark Ruffalo? Ray Romano.
Oh,
Ray Romano would be good.
He's more Luigi, I say. Ray Romano's more Luigi.
Yeah, he just has that vibe. Then who's... I don't know, man. Danny DeVito doesn't seem like a bad one. Mark Ruffalo, I don't think it really has the funniness. Jon Favreau?
Jon Favreau and
it wouldn't be bad. Like, there's
Matt LeBlanc.
Any one of these is better than... This is like Madonna. Just coming up here. Yeah, I'm like... Jon Favreau, Danny DeVito... Danny DeVito would be hilarious.
Yeah,
he would be.
Jon Favreau. I mean, it's not. I'm just like I had to switch it to Italian American actors. DiCaprio would be kind of hilarious too.
He can get a second Oscar.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be. On Google, like Italian American actors, there's not as many on the kind of younger side that are coming up. I guess for Google, you have to have be more established.
Yeah. So Chris Pratt, Mario, bad. Please
Bad,
don't do that.
yeah.
They're going to do it, but
Yeah, Matt LeBlanc. I definitely see Matt LeBlanc. He's got that more the boost to his popularity. Even Rocket Raccoon. What's his name? I'm looking at him and I can't think of his name. Bradley Cooper. Yeah, he came up with Italian American. 10 Italian American stars you don't expect. Okay, so yeah. But even like Charlie Day. Well, look, it's his heritage, but I wouldn't. I had to Google. You know, I think is there not someone who'd be like? I guess the role is a feckin' stereotype, and yeah, Massimo would be the best man to talk about this. But the role originally is a stereotype, and like previously it hasn't been played by an Italian or an Italian American. So it's a base.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just not Chris Pratt.
No, anybody except
anybody but.
So yeah, I'd say that rounds up the news. I said it was a fairly slow week, but I think we made the most of that. Before we disappear, what have you guys been watching, playing? Have you wrote it on the website? What have you been up to?
I actually watched The Matrix again, recently, and I think it was 2 days ago. And man, I wasn't really a Matrix fan. Like, really, I was like, all right, okay, I'll watch it. I watched all the films once and was like, all right, okay, it's fine. But see, watching it back, you actually it's a different point of view now. I'm like, wow, these guys actually really did some groundbreaking work with the whole, like the transgender thing. When in the actual Matrix, she's a woman, and then she's a male. It's like, wow, okay, didn't really notice that. And you don't notice that when you walk in. You're like, okay, maybe I've missed so much. Maybe I'm an idiot. But it's like, wow, like even the acting's a bit like, you go, like Lawrence Fishburne? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I love him as Morpheus now. Like, I didn't really give him that much credit when I first watched him. I was like, oh yes, I would totally love him. But like, you have the red pill or the blue pill. And I was like, oh mate, take me. I'll have the red. I'll have the red pill any day.
I think even people look like, again, I find it very hard to be in a podcast and talk about nerd stuff and not reference the Weekly Planet. But they were kind of like, when looking back in them, and even the sequels, people are like, do you know there's still a lot of good stuff here? Like, there's not as I think there were maybe
there's parts of the sequels that are great. Yeah, did you watch all three, Chris? Did you watch the trilogy? Or
no, I just watched the first one. It's on. Netflix has been bugging me saying recommended Matrix Reloaded. So I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
On it.
I was like, all right, okay, I might actually continue.
Talking about Matrix Reloaded, there's a behind the scenes clip. I don't know if you guys have seen it. We don't watch it right now because we're podcasting, but watch this later. I'll put it in chat.
I think you might have put it in the chat yesterday.
I did. I put it in the group chat, the BGCP chat. It's what's his name? It's Keanu Reeves behind the scenes doing the scene from Reloaded where he's kind of
with all the different heads when he's talking to the architect. Well, actually, that might be a spoiler for.
I've seen that. Is that when he's swearing?
Yeah.
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 I just remember watching that way back. I think I maybe watched it watching it on DVD like with my mates afterwards. There's a bit where you're just like, "Fuck you," one of the cameras.
Yeah, a lot of meme potential in that video. Yeah. Have I been I'm trying to think if I've been watching anything? As I said, I've been wanting to go back and watch Sopranos, but I did see The Many Saints of New York and I did write a review for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Next week now.
I think the biggest thing with these kind of movies, right, with these prequels and sequels and epilogues and all the rest of it, they have to justify their existence. See, when they're following a show as iconic as The Sopranos, it was the same when El Camino followed Breaking Bad. It was like, well, if you're going to return to this world, it needs to be great. Do you know what I mean? It can't be anything less than great. That's always been my thing about The Last of Us too. It was like, well, if you were going to do that, you shouldn't have bothered. Like, just leave it. So yeah, thankfully this movie does justify its existence. I think it does add to the characters, adds to the universe. One of the most interesting takeaways I came away from, without spoiling anything, we hear mentions in the show about how Tony had potential as a football player and he was intelligent. Obviously, he was a very intelligent character, and he could go into not be in this life. He could have went to college. He could have got an education. Blah blah blah. Seeing it as explicitly as you do in the movie, like you hear it mentioned in the show, but when you actually see it playing out, it's really it makes the character way more tragic because you're like, this guy could have been
had a better future.
Totally different life,
in the family.
And certain story elements that take place in the film obviously leads to. It doesn't explicitly show Tony killing his first guy or anything. It doesn't go as as kind of explicit as that, but events in the movie start to hint towards Tony going down that path. Not, as I said, it's done subtly. It's not done like kind of beating you over the head with it. Like, oh, look, this guy's going to be a big gangster. Oh, it's more, it's kind of more holding back than that.
You see a little kind of like the
but
Breaking
you start
Bad.
to see the light going out his eyes. You see the kind of the cynicism setting in, and kind of realizing this is the way the world is, and if I need to do what I need to do, I'll do what I need to do.
Yeah,
you just kind of get a hint of that, and fair play to Michael Gandolfini, because before this, I think he was in The Deuce, the TV show The Deuce.
Yeah.
But I don't think he was in much else. So he's still a young actor with obviously not that much under his belt, but he was great in this. He was phenomenal. And I did wonder. I think like most people go in, you wonder, is it nepotism? Did they just cast him because he was his son? But no, he gives a stellar performance. He's great.
When I just seen the first images of him in character, I was like, don't fucking care if it's nepotism. Like, he looked, it's magic. The fact that the situation worked out that they're able to do that is a gift. Like, totally. I wouldn't bother me at all. There was, I watched like 5 episodes of the first season recently, and like, there's a line Tony has when he's talking to Dr. Melfi, the therapist. He's like, I did a semester at college. I know all about psychology. Like, he's a very smart man, but in some ways he's not. Like, someone can be very smart, but I don't know, or intelligent but not smart.
Yes, that's
the
film's great. The other performances are great. It's kind of, I will say this, going, although the marketing would have you believe it's a prequel about Tony Soprano, it's not. It's more about his uncle, Dickie Moltisanti, who was Tony's mentor and is kind of responsible for the way that Tony went. But it's not a movie about a young Tony. It's a movie about a young Dickie Moltisanti, and Tony's his nephew, so he's more a side character. But it's phenomenal.
Would I be right in thinking that the time period isn't even where he's that age? Isn't in it? It isn't in that time period where he's there, or is Tony's time period when he's played by Michael Gandolfini in the film a lot?
Well, I was actually, that was what I was going to say. I was sitting in the cinema, I was thinking, when are we going to see Michael Gandolfini? It's about halfway through the film before we get our first scene with Michael Gandolfini.
Like Spider-Man in Civil War.
Yeah, it starts off, Tony's about 10 at the start of the movie, like he's a really young kid, and it shows you kind of things happen. I don't want to spoil any of the movie because it's not actually on streaming yet. But certain things happen, and then there's a time jump. A certain character goes to prison and jumps about 5 years, 6 years, and then you pick up with Tony again when he's 17.
Because I had heard there was a time. Sorry.
No, you go.
I had heard there was a time period or a real world event that didn't match up time wise to a 17-year-old Tony. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was kind of aware of that.
Um,
I was, but like,
no, he's great when he comes into it, but as I say, he's not the main character.
yeah,
Even though the trailers and the posters would have you think so.
That's weird, that, because you would think it would be him, even though it is probably his uncle's kind of thing, but you think it would be him. Like,
Alessandro, help me. Need what? No, it's not. It's like Nevueno or something.
Nevueno.
Hold on. Mexican guy?
I've got my review opened. Alessandro Nivola is phenomenal as the main character. He really carries the movie, and he has this kind of. You see it in The Sopranos. You see it a lot of guys are kind of media. He's got that kind of calm intensity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when he kills someone, it's not like he's enjoying it, and it's also not like he's even there. Like the actor gives a great performance in the sense that it's almost like he blacks out, he does something insane, takes a life, whatever, it puts a knife through somebody's skull or whatever horrible thing he does, and then he kind of switches back on. But instead of being like, "Oh shit, what have I done?" or whatever, it's just right business. This is the body, and you're gonna do it. Like it's very cold and calculated, and he plays that really, really well. Really good in the film.
Is he? That's Chris's dad, is it?
Yes, yeah, that's Chris Soprano's dad. Chris Moltisanti's dad.
I did see
and Ray Liotta's grandfather, who's also Ray Liotta's great in the film as well.
Oh, there's a clip in the trailer where it's just like I won't even say exactly what it was, but it was fucking heartbreaking. The young Tony meeting baby Chris.
Yes,
and there's just something. It's just like, oh my god, like that's horrible. Like,
yeah, he says that. He does have a line like, "It's like he's scared of me" or something.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they say babies know.
Yeah. Yeah, the Ray Liotta plays the Moltisanti grandfather, Dickie's dad, and he also plays his uncle. He's playing twin brothers, and it was one of the times that you're watching the movie, and he's playing Ray Liotta's playing the one character, right? He's playing the dad, and then you see him playing the uncle, and it was one of the wee reminders. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. This guy is a phenomenally ranged actor. Like I think Ray Liotta for a long time has been playing the kind of shouty older Italian that's kind of like he does play that part in this film. That's who the granddad is, Chris's granddad, Hollywood Dick they call him, and he's like, hey, he's really over the top and really kind of Italian, top of your hands, and he's a hard man and he thinks he's cool and he's good with the ladies and all that. And then you see his uncle who went to prison when he was like 18 for killing someone and is a totally different person. He's totally like grounded, more cynical, man of very few words, like totally different spectrum, and it's really impressive when you watch it, and you're just reminded, you're like, oh, that's right, this guy actually has range. He's not just that guy, because he's been doing that version of that character for a long time, I think, Ray Liotta. To see him doing something totally different in the same movie, I found kind of fascinating.
That's cool.
And it's like, yeah, big news. Ray Liotta's a great actor, we all know, but it's nice to be reminded of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it's great. I'd definitely recommend it when it comes to streaming. If you're a Sopranos fan, it's a love letter to the show. It's fan service in a big way. But I would also say, even if you're not a Sopranos fan, it does spoil some of the show. Even though it's before, there's some narration that would spoil some of the major deaths in the show. So maybe if you've not finished the show, I would say watch that first. But if you have no intention of watching the show and you've never seen it, you can watch this and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't care about the show and you're not going to go back to it, you can still watch this film and enjoy it.
That's one thing. Does he sound like him? Has he got his accent?
Extremely so. And one thing that I thought was fascinating, James Gandolfini had a slight speech impediment sometimes. When he gets intense and he shouts, sometimes you can see it. Michael Gandolfini's speech impediment is the same, but a bit more exaggerated. It's a bit more obvious. And I was watching it and I'm thinking, that was the only thing. I'm like, your speech impediment's more kind of what's the word, like profound than your dad's was.
Yeah.
But that is also something that can change with age.
That works. Yeah, people work on it.
Had the list when they were young that's gone now, or the other way around. Like, yeah, so speech does change as you age. So no, it's totally believable as that character. Is
it a lisp or kind of like more of a nasally thing?
It's kind of in the back of his throat, I think. But it is kind of like his lips as well. I don't. It's kind of hard to describe. I don't. know
but he's his father's son. Like,
yes,
I kind of sound like my dad.
It feels. Oh no, it does. It feels like at no point did it feel like you're watching James Gandolfini's son. It felt like you were watching a young Tony Soprano.
Yeah.
What you want.
There's also that thing of I think it's in the first episode. Tony, he speaks more like James Gandolfini. Very more. It's not as an Italian of a voice.
Yeah,
it's more Americanized, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, great film. Hold on, I'll give you my quick rating of it.
Exclusive here. Exclusive.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. In terms of criticism, the story is very straightforward. It is very. I don't want to give it away, but this happens, then this is a reaction, then that's how we get here. Do you know what I mean? It's not as maybe not as layered as some other gangster movies are.
Yeah.
But it's fine because it sets up where it needs to go. Do you know what I mean? You know where it's going, so it's not an issue. So yeah, the story is a wee bit not basic, but it's just maybe there's a wee bit to be desired. And I can't actually remember. I had another issue. Something to do with the ending, but also I can't speak about that here because I don't want to spoil anything. I felt like I again did a bit more with a certain character at the end of the movie, but I let folk watch themselves and decide. And also, like I said, they are talking about doing a sequel, so maybe that's why it ended the way it did, so they can leave it open. I don't know. But no, overall it was great.
I think
great film.
There's a lot to be said for not be like as long as it's not a fucking dumpster fire, like, and doesn't.
Oh no, no, it's absolutely. It's to the standard of the show, I would say. Do you know what I mean? It's not. Nobody that loved the show is going to be let down by this. It's at the same level. It's great.
That's good.
I was strangely, like, even though I was really put off by the end of the first season for what I was watching, I decided to start Daredevil again.
Oh, okay.
Really?
There was a certain point in the end of the first season where it was just like, was it something like they're at a funeral, I won't say who, but they're at a funeral as Ellen Page? No.
Karen.
The actress.
Karen, yeah.
Karen Page and Matt Murdock, like, not as Daredevil. They're at a funeral, and just as the casket is lowered into the ground, they walk straight up and talk to the wife of the person. And that's a very small thing, but a nitpicker like me, and just, being at funerals, that would not have... Two strangers are not going to get the chance to go up and talk to the wife of someone whose casket has literally just gone into the ground. And I know it was whatever, but in my head, I was just like, could you not just shoot that scene that they approached her at the car after that point?
Yeah.
Like, that was a small thing. And then, as the second season, I stopped... I think I just got sick of it after the Punisher arc, because Punisher kind of finishes in the second season. He maybe comes in again at the end. But then everyone's just saying, like, the third season works really well. I'm like, look, I'm just going to go back and rewatch this now because I know the third season ends well. I might skip some episodes in the second season, but I just thought I'd start it again. It's very enjoyable. Acting's great. And just to see to treat it, because as I've got back into comics in the last year and a half, to treat it as this is a short arc, treat it as 3 volumes. I'm just going to go back and watch it.
Yeah, and it's great to see D'Onofrio as Kingpin because he's phenomenal. D'Onofrio was Kingpin as well. It must be good to see him back because D'Onofrio's incredible.
Yeah, great. And then comics, I don't know what I was talking about it the last time. I reviewed Dark Ages 1.
Right.
The Tom Taylor thing. I don't know if I mentioned it in the last pod I was on. It's great. Looking forward to it. I'm very fresh to comics, so I've been given a lot of, maybe all of my reviews have been 5-star, but I've also been selective of picking what I'm reviewing, that it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So the other thing I've been reviewing was That Texas Blood, which I've done Volume 1, Issue 8, Issue 9, and now Issue 10. And again, I kind of see it like Sopranos is kind of just like, this is just really fucking good every time. The art and the writing, you think it's all based in kind of small town Texas, but Chris Condon is the writer, and Jacob Phillips, son of Sean Phillips.
Yeah,
I'm sure he just like that every time someone goes Jacob Phillips to Sean Phillips. But it's for people to know him. Yeah, it's just both of them. They add in stuff that you don't expect every time, especially for the art. Same characters, but he just adds in something like a little. It mightn't be a massive change, but there's something different in the art every issue that you're like, oh, cool. And it's like, it's not this big superhero story spanning different worlds. It's all in the one place in Texas. There's different time periods, which is, but the story, they keep finding new places to go with everything. It's fantastic. I couldn't recommend it enough.
Good stuff. Well, I think unless you guys have got anything else to add, I think we'll wrap it there.
Right.
Yes, thank you for watching another episode of BGCP Disassembled. Let us know if you've got any other examples of bad CGI, good CGI, leave them in the comments below. Drop us a like, that helps. Drop us a sub, share if you really enjoy it. And yeah, that's us. We're wrapping up. I've been Dan, and I've been joined by Jerd and Chris. Hey! Yeah, and I guess we'll see you next week, where we don't have a discussion topic yet, but I'm sure we'll be here to talk about something.
There'll be something.
Right, cheers folks, all the best.
See you
guys.
Thank you for listening to Disassembled. You can find more news and reviews on BigGlasgowComicPage.com. And don't forget, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as BGCP Comic Con. Make sure you also subscribe on your podcast provider of choice for new episodes every week.